You're listening to the Monocle Daily, first broadcast on the 19th of March 2025 on Monocle Radio.
And Monocle officially opens its doors here in Paris. We'll play musical chairs as we try to fit 8 editorial figures into Studio 5 here in the French capital. I'm Emma Nelson. The Monocle Daily starts now. Hello and a very warm welcome to this very special edition of the Monocle Daily, coming to you live from our brand new studios here at 16 Rue Bachaumont in Paris, where we're currently hosting the Monocle opening party in the French capital. I'm Emma Nelson, and a host of Monocle Voices will be joining us here in Studio 5, including our editorial director Tyler Brûlé, editor-in-chief Andrew Tuck, editor Josh Fennett, editor of Convex magazine Sophie Grove, and others, including the legendary journalist Christine Ockrent, who will join us to celebrate the opening of Monocles here in Paris. So stay tuned. That's all to come right here on the Monocle Daily. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to play non-musical chairs because we have a cast of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 people in this room. We're all trying to cram in to Studio 5. Tyler Brûlé, set the scene for us, please. Welcome, bienvenue.
Bienvenue. Good evening, welcome, Emma. Welcome, listeners. Of course, welcome people in studio this evening. We have a space here on Rue Bachaumont, which is rapidly filling up, and it is really the official launch this evening. This is us sort of kicking off this journey here in France. I'm very happy, as you said at the intro to the show. Christine Ockrent is here with us this evening.
Hello.
Good evening. We go back. We all go back. I mean, it's a bit of a reunion in terms of all of us being in a studio space. We all started in Studio 1 at Midori House in London, and who would have thought? 12 years later, something like that, that here we are in Paris, and it's remarkable that we have a proper setup. Studio 1 and 2 being in London, Studio 3, of course, being in Tokyo, Studio 4 in Zurich, and now Studio 5 here in Paris.
And the question, you've been doing quite a few press interviews today, Tyler, and by all accounts, the biggest question, the opening gambit from most reporters is, what took you so long to land in Paris?
Yes, you're posing the same question to me. What I've been telling the French press, Christine, this will not surprise you, of course, when you speak to the likes of Le Monde, when you speak to the likes of Le Figaro. Why 18 years later in Paris? And I had to say to them, we had to sort of travel far and wide. And of course,
no, you had to deserve us.
This is also true. Listen. Yeah, Christine is very famous for talking about niches and the importance of being a niche, and I think that's a niche relationship. You're right, but of course, we went from London, we went to Los Angeles. We went to Tokyo, and now we're closing the gap as well. So we also want to be very, of course, we want to be such an eco brand as well, right? So we just take the shuttle now between Zurich to Paris to London, back and forth again.
Christine, it's so good to have you in a French studio in Paris. It's a lovely scene this evening. I wonder whether from the point of view, from the Monocle point of view, what Monocle now brings to the Paris media scene that perhaps it lacked, or whether there's this lovely, fresh competition. I'm going to ask you that question in a minute.
Is it possible that they're missing anything in France? But anyway.
That is the thing. It's pretty, it's packed here, it's traditional. You probably have to sharpen your elbows to get yourself a place. So what is it that Monocle's bringing to the party?
No, I think Monocle is quite a unique endeavor because it combines serious journalism with a great deal of concern for the art of living. And the French press is much more divided, so to speak. So we have, very good traditional media, papers, radio, TV channels. And then we have very good magazines about the art of living. But what I find unique, and what struck me when I was lucky enough to meet all of you so many years ago, is again that mix, which is very unique and which this place, again in Paris, actually reflects.
And it is, Andrew Tucker, editor-in-chief, no mean feat to make difficult things look easy. So covering seriousness with gravitas, but being able to tell us about, a good cut of a jacket and an excellent chair or somewhere to get a good schnitzel. You need to sort of keep things quite well put together, but the top button just a little bit undone.
But let's be clear, that's the job of all good media. If you look at an amazing newspaper, they should be having the best fashion editor to cover the runway shows. They should be having a good business editor. They should be covering sport. They should be telling you about the softer side of life too. Most newspapers are good at that. What's unusual is that to find that all in one magazine. I think the other thing, just picking up on what Tyler was saying, is that we've always wanted to be outside of the Anglosphere and not only an English magazine. We never wanted to be the London magazine, the England magazine. Partly by being in Zurich, we solved that problem. But I think being here, it really kind of broadens the perspective you have and brings in different voices. And the other thing is, there's a tiny clue as soon as you come into this space that we want to be part of an ecosystem. We have an amazing newsstand where we're displaying the works of other media companies, of other publishers, because we care about this. We care about how we've talked recently in the UK about a group of the willing, and that's what we are as well. We're, on the media side, we're trying to bring together people who care about the future of the media and who think it should be diverse and rich and telling lots of different stories.
And having, Tyler, fresh voices coming from Paris is absolutely important. I mean, standing behind you is Simon Bouvier, who in a moment will come up to the table and tell us, just what it feels like to be part of this new endeavour. But for you, the importance of having a voice in France in particular, not just in Paris, but the fact that France has everything that it needs on its doorstep and has a supreme sense of self-awareness as well.
Absolutely, but I think also we look at the news gathering tradition here. I think, as Christine cited, on one side, yes, you may have a division that, of course, the French are amazing and maybe world class when it comes to, of course, doing great style press, whether it's design, whether it's fashion focused, and then, of course, very respected news brands as well, and whether those are traditionally from print, television at the same time. But you think about the French correspondents who are out around the world. Around the corner from us, we have, of course, the headquarters for AFP, Agence France Presse, is around the corner, and these are amazing organizations that we also want to be closer to as well, because I think, as Andrew just cited too, we can, of course, live in our world, which is that of the Wall Street Journal and what AP is reporting and what CNN is doing, but there is so much more, and we find this every day. And I think it, Andrew, jump in, but I think it really sharpens you in a very, very different way. So we want to make sure that around this very table in Studio 5, that it's bringing, of course, the likes of Christine to the table, but also journalists from other outlets, and not just French outlets. What I think is also interesting as well is also how this city is also becoming, in a way, a new type of international news hub as well, because bureaus have demobilized in other parts of Europe. So where do they choose to be? They might have put many people in London, and they would have had Frankfurt before, and they might have had Geneva, etc. Well, budgets are being cut, as we know. And so, of course, people have to choose one place. This is an extraordinary hub, of course, which connects you to Francophone Africa and many other parts of the world. So that's the story also we want to quantify. And also of France, which is, of course, in a moment of extraordinary flux right now. And I think we arrive at a very interesting time.
We see it in a moment of, when France is trying to sort of clamber up and be the world leader of the West in so many ways. Andrew, you wanted to make a point on what Tyler just said.
One other tiny side point. The other amazing thing about Rue Bachaumont, I would encourage anybody who's in Paris, has a few spare hours or a few minutes to come and see us, because in this neighborhood, you see writ large all the things that we care about when we think about making cities. I had half an hour this afternoon, and I just walked these streets. There's the butcher, the fish shop. There's an amazing place to get your keys cut. There's several shops that just seem to supply the hotel trade with plates and all the things you need. If you drew a fantasy neighborhood, this is kind of it. This is urbanism done well. This is the kind of city block that we imagine that you should replicate elsewhere. But again, Paris, France offers us a good lesson in holding on to your independence, not handing everything over to chain stores, and having this vitality on the street, which is incredible when you come here. Every bar, every brasserie, this evening, the sun's out here, full, lively, every generation.
Christine, as an adopted Parisian, just listening to what Andrew says, do you think that it might be good to broadcast this programme on a loudspeaker on the top of a car to the Parisians themselves?
That's exactly what I was thinking, because we Parisians, we grumble all the time. We're
really?
Never happy.
I never noticed.
I mean, traffic is impossible. This whole area, which I guess is a good decision, but you can't come with your car anymore, so Okay, fine. So you can bicycle, but not everybody, likes to bicycle when it rains. Anyway, yes, indeed, I think there should be a loudspeaker in French, preferably, with that message that indeed, as you put it very well, this is a postcard of what, a nice neighborhood is about, and of course there is indeed that sort of French art of living. Even if Parisians tend to grumble, it is still very lively and very creative.
A little touch on the French art of living here, Tyler. There are not many wines on the menu in the cafe. How hard a decision was that, narrowing it down? Did we cause almost diplomatic incidents?
Well, I think what caused a diplomatic incident almost was having an Austrian wine, and that is, of course, we have the lovely Irma working here. But of course, we want to have a broad spectrum, of course, of different beverages on the menu, no doubt. But listen, it's evolving. We have to start somewhere, Emma, and of course, there's going to be many, of course, more added to the mix. You can be assured of that for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really am very, very glad that this is just radio, because we have lots and lots of tables and occupations and things happening. So we have Sophie Grove, editor in Confect, has just come in. Simon Bouvier, you knocked Andrew Tuck off his perch and have now taken up residence. And Josh Fennett, you're here to talk a little bit about, editor of Monocle magazine, and now congratulations, the proud sort of like occupant of the new baby. We're wetting the baby's head tonight, aren't we?
If anyone can organise anything, it's us doing a radio show, but I've never seen so many people in a studio. Have you? Have you ever managed the kind of carnival that we've seen unfolding here?
Yes, but we're going to manage it like with military-like precision. There will be no climbing over chairs, and everybody will be on time. So we shall run it ship-shape. But Simon, I mean, I think we mentioned this yesterday when just before this thing started to taxi on the runway, and today's event has taken off. This place is a local neighbourhood cafe, shop and radio studio, just that happens to be in built. Now that we are seeing tonight the party, the announcement, the reaching out to the press, Monocle suddenly starts to take roots very quickly in Paris, doesn't it?
It's incredible. I mean, we opened here a few weeks ago, and all of the press and our efforts to make our presence here known only started in the last few days, but we already have regulars at the cafe. Elderly Italian gentleman who lives in the neighborhood and who always sits at the same table with his coffee in the morning. We have visitors coming from all over the world who are emailing us about how wonderful they find the space. I put them in touch with the team here so that they could see what the response is like, because a lot of people, even though I am not involved in the day-to-day runnings of the cafe and the shop, I want our colleagues here to know how much love they're getting. And I know other colleagues are also getting emails from people who have just looked at the masthead in the magazine and found the first person that had Paris next to their name and emailed them how enthusiastic they are about it all.
Sophie Grove, editor of Confect. Shining the light on beautiful luxury is something that Confect has done very, very well ever since day one. Paris is not a city that needs to sell itself for luxury. It can do that just by calling itself Paris. So there is a lovely, rich ecosystem that Confect and you can now really sort of get your hands into. You can roll up your sleeves and really embrace it.
I know, it really feels like a bit of a gear change for us, because we've got this home here and this root, this sense of really being a part of a community. And then I just feel a little bit more Parisian. I think I probably always had a little bit of that outsider complex, having lived here for 4 years, and sort of like nudging at kind of something. But there are these layers and layers to unpeel. This beautiful sense of walking down a street. Today I saw this amazing calligraphy studio, just the beautiful paper shops. Amazing. Even there's a sardine shop round the corner. I know this is not métier d'art, but there's something so wonderful about the kind of like specificity and beauty of this area that is incredibly inspiring. And then it just takes you on. And I think as a magazine, it's going to be an amazing inspiration for us.
I wonder how many cities do have that. I mean, it's a very European feeling that actually that slap bang in the heart of an enormous city. And knowing that we're in a part of town where there is a large amount of space behind the shop fronts, that they go back. There's quite a lot of factories. This feels like it has and still is a sort of a kind of a place for upholstery where this is material being placed. And you just suddenly think that if you had a slightly cynical eye to it, you'd be a property developer wanting to knock it down and turn it into something not quite as beautiful, Josh. And it's absolutely astonishing to think that this place, almost what indeed some may claim the heart of Europe here, is finding itself with space to breathe in quiet courtyards.
Yeah, people are careful custodians of these spaces, which is such an amazing thing. I mean, anyone who leaves through Monocle will know that, of course, the métier d'art, the world of craft and provenance means something to us, but so does building cities and making cities. And one thing that always heartens me when I talk to companies about our hospitality coverage is that we don't just write about interesting openings, we don't just talk about the latest hotels. We actually invest in spaces, we employ people, we source the ingredients. We have Simone standing on the door at all times of day and night to make people feel welcome. And I think that is one thing that we're missing in lots of European cities. Sophie, the Confect perspective on these things, what does make a great neighbourhood? What makes a city tick?
I feel that there is that little kind of wonderful place to mend your clothes, that lovely little sort of drogerie where you can buy all the things you need. And it has to be, I mean, I know the 15-minute city has been completely riddled with controversy, but it's even less than that. What I love about this is there are elderly people that live in this dynamic life here because everything is on your doorstep. And if you can make it up the stairs, I mean, hopefully they have a lift, because I've seen some really wonderful people with shopping bags this morning, in amazing mink coats, sunglasses, and like quite a lot of vegetables.
That's Simone's office fair. Leave him be.
This is not the office fair, perhaps. I don't know.
But it is just that sense that, it is glorious, the kind of cheek by jowl, but there's elegance. And I can't help thinking it's something to do with the French philosophy that it really does work so well in this corner of the world.
We have a Frenchman in the room, Simone Bouvier, being very quiet and patient and listening to this. This French philosophy, is it felt internally, or must this be observed by an outsider?
Well, I think, as Christine was hinting at earlier, it's easy for those of us who have called Paris home for a while, and even easier for natives to be cynical about the charms of Paris and to always focus on how during Fashion Week the roads are full of people who are trying to take selfies and getting in the way of taxi cabs, and that, it's all become a little bit unmanageable. But I think the history of this city and the kind of continuity of the spaces that Parisians exist in, for example, the space that we're standing in right now is the arrière-boutique of what has been a shop, like the typical layout of a Parisian boutique with kind of a back storeroom where you could store your wares. And before we moved in, it was a hairdresser. So they adapted this space, this historic kind of layout, to a new and more modern activity. And now, where there used to be a storeroom, there's a radio studio. So we're a part of that history now.
Simone, can I ask you a really unfair question?
Please.
If you had to take this area and transpose it into New York or into London, where are we? Is this the Marylebone of Paris? What's this area known for? You've obviously been working here while the cafe's been redone. You have a bit of a sense of it. Orientate us.
Well, this may be a bit of a dodge, but it's a pretty unique area because it's the historic market neighborhood of Paris. The Les Halles is better known as a subway station now, but it's the name that the giant market hall that was at the center of all commercial activity in Paris used to be until it was moved to the outskirts in the mid-20th century. But this area was pedestrianized shortly after that and created this kind of village energy in the heart of Paris that is something that is difficult to find. And Barcelona has neighborhoods that are highly pedestrianized, but that are more modern and were purpose-built. Here, it's a little bit similar to what I was saying earlier, where you have this old Paris, this historic Paris that has moved with the times and that is thriving in the 21st century.
Let us bring in, we've got a bit of fun and games here. We're now playing again with the musical headphones. Nick Moniz, our design editor. Brenda Toohey, fashion luxury editor. Are you going to go luxury?
Luxury feels right. I like the musical headphones as well. This is like, people might be weirded out by it, but I like a pre-warmed headphone. It's like a cuddle for my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Not
fine.
pre-warmed toilet seats though. I just want that, unless they're a Toto.
I was about to say, unless the Japanese have done it,
Of
or you
course.
get those ones that whiz around and clean the seat. We're getting too much detail.
Sorry.
Our luxury editor, Brenda Toohey, happily ensconced in Paris. This is kind of a she's in a happy place, ladies and gentlemen.
I really
and
am.
you're here to start catching luxury and reeling it in and beautifully slathering it over the pages of Confect and Monocle. Slathering's a bit inelegant, but gently.
It's nice. It's kind of liquid. There's a lot of lovely luxury here tonight, I'll tell you. There are a lot of great looking people.
I appreciate that you were looking at me while you said that. I just want that to be, I know
It's
this is an
dark,
audio
Nick.
medium. I know, okay. Well,
We have cosy
Emma,
lighting
please.
here,
And this is what I'm here to talk
which
about.
I'm really grateful
Yeah,
about.
100%.
You're here to talk about cozy lighting as our design editor.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing I feel very strongly about. And I'm also, I might not be the luxury editor, but I'm here luxuriating. And I think that also needs to be discussed because I tell you what, this space is absolutely incredible. It is somewhere where you want to spend time.
Do you
and
know
just
what?
kind of
It's
relax.
so serene, I think, and sort of enveloped in that blonde wood, those giant posters. It just feels very calm.
Some lovely Japanese Nakari chairs. Or Finnish, rather. Sorry.
There's this lovely expression, isn't there? And I think Simon, help me here. Cocooning. And one feels as if this is a little bit of cocooning. Could you talk us through the concept of cocooning and how we embrace that into any language?
Well, I don't know if I'm an expert in cocooning, but I could tell you what,
Tell us what it means.
wonderful architects from Can Design, the firm that came up with this space, were thinking when, again, they adapted this kind of historic, kind of typical Parisian boutique layout into what is now Monocle in Paris. They wanted to create the impression of being drawn in towards the back, right? Because you have this long corridor, and I think they were so successful, as you said, Brenda. This like blonde wood creates this really cozy atmosphere, and the heavy green curtains that they've picked to kind of guide people who walk in the door. First thing they see is the beautiful kiosk wall on their right with obviously all things Monocle, but all of titles that we respect and admire as well. And then they get drawn in towards the back where there's seating and the Monocle shop, and then all the way at the back, Studio 5. So they did want to create a cocooning atmosphere, I believe, but they also wanted to draw people into the back of the space. And I think they were very successful. Having seen the space completely gutted, this place used to be, as I said earlier, a hairdresser. Obviously, we removed all of the infrastructure more appropriate for a blowout.
Which is a shame. I was about to say, Nick Moniz at this point is getting a massive dose of nostalgia because his hair's looking brilliant.
Thank you.
There's been work done.
Full credit to Jeffrey on Barber Smith's on Chiltern Street.
Jeffrey.
Outstanding.
You know, I actually emailed Nick over a holiday period. My son's hair was looking particularly ropey, and I thought, I sit opposite this style guru, Nick Moniz, the man that is Nick Moniz, and I said, Nick, would you mind just sharing your hair secrets with me? He did.
Larry
And
King.
and this sitting opposite each other is something that has brought a sort of a blossoming.
Well, I
hasn't
think it's particularly relevant. We've kind of had we might be, I also like Simon. Sorry, I'm going to digress slightly here. I kind of like the idea of people before they've come to our lovely space on Rue Bachaumont, coming in as a caterpillar and exiting as a butterfly. And I feel like that's what. Yeah, that's the cocoon analogy. To be honest, I was just sitting on that and waiting for an appropriate time to say it. It never came. I've got my joke out.
I hope it happens to me tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, what happens if you come in a butterfly and then what do you leave as? I don't even know.
I'm just about to wield the radio donkey whip. We can't see this. You have to use the words.
Use words,
Nick Moniz.
Use words. Well, no,
to describe the hair.
To describe the hair, it's very full. Larry King, I owe a lot to that man. I use his products, absolutely delightful.
It's very luxe.
But I think if we digress again. I don't even know where we're going with this. So Brenda's sitting across from my full head of hair. But the reason why
Brenda has a full head of hair as well.
Exactly, that's worth noting. You're right. This is a radio medium. Thank you.
We need help.
Audio medium, but I think it's worth mentioning that we've come together because we're really putting an emphasis and a focus on luxury in terms of design and fashion. And this is an area where we're really putting a lot of effort into. We always have, but I think more than ever we're kind of doubling down on it as something that's incredibly important to our coverage. You know, that we recognise that sitting in a beautiful, comfortable, well-made chair is luxurious as well as it is, you know, wearing some amazing clothing. So there are those two things coming together. That's the only reason I wanted to flag it, Emma Nelson.
Simone Bouvier, when the Monocle Happy Bus packs up and the Monocle staffers head off to their next endeavour and their next exciting adventure to stuff the pages of our magazines and sort of fill the ears of our listeners. What is it that you're going to be taking away from the last couple of days when we have all just turned up basically on your doorstep and gone, we like where you are? I don't think anyone's had a bad word to say about it. Understandably, it is glorious.
I mean, my ready-made response to that is that the Eurostar is pretty easy to use, and the more the merrier at all times, not just on launch party night.
Are you lonely, Simone?
Sorry?
Are you lonely? Is that what you're getting
at? Yeah, well, maybe a little bit.
I think Mrs. Simone might be for a bit.
We're definitely missing some Nick Moniz energy in the Paris office and some Brenda energy as well.
I wonder whether, like Samson, if you took a lock of Nick Moniz's hair and kept it on your desk, whether that would...
Maybe a clone would grow in that spot.
I mean, I really could use two of me, so that's maybe not such a bad idea.
Okay, well, maybe we can experiment with that.
I think the world could do with two of you. What are we taking away from Paris for you, Brenda?
I tell you, for me, I was really quite surprised at all the different and intricate products that you have here. You know, I do like things that sparkle. There were some really beautiful embroidered brooches and badges that are just so special, gorgeous. And then, who doesn't need a monocle leather tassel to attach to their bag? I tell you, I'll be shopping for that before I leave tonight.
I'm a fan of a tassel on Rue de Maille, where they do some amazing embroidery and some amazing sort of work, ribbon and rope work for upholstery. So you're going to have your leather tassel. I'm taking a tassel which you would ordinarily put on a very beautifully swagged velvet curtain. They've turned it into a sort of 60s kind of swingy dress. Glorious. Ooh. A kind of an amazing A-line dress made of tassels. It's glorious. That's what I'm stealing
for your next special edition of the Daily.
Every
Studio
edition
5.
would be a special edition if I was wearing a dress made nothing of tassels, and I don't think it'd be special for the right reason. What are you putting in your bag and stealing, Nick Moniz?
I don't know if I can steal this. I wanted to talk about the amazing neighbourhood we're in, and maybe we've already talked about that, but it's very, very pedestrian and bike friendly, which I think is hugely significant. There's nothing worse than sitting outside on a terrace or outside a cafe and just traffic streaming by. Here, you know, you might get the odd delivery truck, but other than that, it's just people walking. The sun was out today. Everyone was smiling. It's absolutely divine.
It's so charming with such a great diversity of shops and hotels and residential.
But if
apartments.
Hang on, are you taking you home? We're not shoplifting though, are we?
We can do anything we like in our dreams.
Okay, well, in our dreams, I'm probably shoplifting from us because there's an amazing stool made in collaboration with Tiptoe that I think is. I feel like stools aren't talked about enough. There was probably a better wording for that. But in terms of their ability to function as both a side table and additional seating if you're going to have a party, and I think they are overlooked and should be embraced a little bit more.
I agree.
That's what I'm walking away with a Tiptoe stool.
I've got one at home. You can borrow it.
Did our listeners hear that, or is that just
literally? I have. You're never alone with a microphone. Yeah. I haven't just sort of said I'm going to pass you a stool when we get back to London.
Normally it's you moving me on. We need to move on from this.
I think we're actually going to end the programme.
Okay, well,
listen, we've been here for a good 30 minutes, chewing the fat, celebrating Paris, celebrating 16 Rue Bachaumont, celebrating Studio 5, ladies and gentlemen. But we now have to leave you because Paris has to celebrate the arrival of Monocle. That is all the time we have for today's edition of the Monocle Daily. The warmest of thanks to all my guests. I'm going to try and remember who's come into the room. Christian Ockrent, Tyler Brûlé, Andrew Tuck, Sophie Grove, Brenda Toohey, Simon Bouvier, Nick Manise, hang on, someone's writing this out, Josh Fennett, Anita Riotta is a producer who's held this all together. Back in London, riding the levels has been our sound engineer, Elliot Greenfield. I'm Emma Nelson here in Paris. The Daily's back at the same time tomorrow. Andrew Muller will be standing here for you for that. But for now, from me, goodbye. Thank you very much for listening.